Hello, I am Ravi Chakrabarti. I am a doctoral scholar in the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and I'm going to speak on the influence of on statistics as a technology, the influence of cybernetics on post-independence planning in India. So, on November 9th, 2016, the Prime Minister of India demonetized the currency denominations that were worth rupees 500 and 1000. Tons of wads of circulating cash were rendered worthless, leading to chaos of nightmarish proportions as the country queued up before ATMs. The state operationalized a clear argument that this was the best way to flush out black money in cash, while at the same time forcing people to take refuge in the new economy of digital payments, supposed to be synonymous with transparency. Now, that's how it played out, and the this was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision in his manifesto, articulated in his manifesto before coming to power. That is to take India into this really next level of digitization in terms of digitization of which he calls as digital India. So now. Uh, this was the pictures of the queues and the that were formed once the notes were demonetized, and just give you a sense of the kind of chaos it was. Now, however disputable this argument, the literal force of digital India as a socio-technical imaginary rattled our lives overnight as we scampered around for cash to sustain ourselves while we jostled against the digital utopia that many were forced to enter. With the concerted efforts of the government, the supremacy of the digital universe has become naturalized in the popular imagination of the country, even as the shock move, caused unprecedented economic disaster whose effects we are still suffering from. As the face of a bold and militant utilitarianism, the Prime Minister urged us to bear the cost of this so called utopia. It is not the goal of this paper to repeat apprehensions about the exaggerated promises of a digital economy, nor is our aim to salvage or perhaps even valorize the digital mode where entire populations contribute to creations of mega databases at the disposals of states and mega corporations. But there is need to take a historical difference from this very pervasive technical imaginary, if I may use Chasinov's term, that seems deceptively all too ready-made, along with its corresponding critiques and glaring in our face. Let us retrieve from this very contemporary episode something which took place 3 years back, a couple of years back. Uh, uh, from this contemporary episode, we let us retrieve a more fundamental relationship for our studies. How did states collect and exploit such humongous amounts of information about its citizenship, especially India? So we begin at the moment post-independence India. Independent India confronted the vacuum generated by the fading away of the Gandhian charkha, which is the spinning wheel that you see on the screen, a potent symbol of a rather efficient anti-colonial socio-technical imaginary. Nehruvian socialism succeeded the charkha with newer images, that of state-built dams as new temples of modern India, as Nehru called them. Simultaneously, a fresh technological imaginary was being articulated by the bureaucratic elite of scientists and mathematicians. From this vantage point, unlike the pervasive contemporary zeitgeist of a digital India, statistical machinery was rather an arcane business, not so much the populist digital India that we have come to know. It was quite arcane, and it was limited to the hallowed circles of the Planning Commission, the National Planning Commission that was supposed to empower policy thinking in India. Now, The thing is, uh, indeed, this incipient institution of statistical information gathering and processing seeded a technological imaginary that was crucial in filling up the intellectual vacuum post-independence with the, you know, that was left by the passing away of the chakra by the, when the chakra was passed by its sell-by date, even as it anticipated many features of the prevalent digital imagination that we see today, we confronted a particular technological understanding of statistics, of uh, in the vision of the pioneer of statistical planning in India, the great scientist and mathematician P.C. Mahalanobis, which you see on the left of your screen. I argue that such an analysis allows us to see an original ambiguity between the relationship between the state and the information it possessed about the governed population. So this is Mahalanobis on the left, and the right you see Wiener, the person whose ideas I argue has influenced him. So going forward, uh, in spite of the ample amount of self-reflexivity Mahalanobis practiced about the fundamental implications of statistical planning as an important component of nation building, uh, there has hardly been any effort to do proper justice to the ideas of Mahalanobis as a philosopher of technology of such great consequence. Greg Adamson, a contemporary scholar, admirably wrote about the interaction between Wiener and Mahalanobis and provided extremely fleeting speculations about how Wiener's views on the nature of industrialization in India are very crucial, and they sort of beg for the depth they truly deserve, which my presentation intends to give. Uh, Now, while the archives do not retain a proper historical record of the influence that Norbert Wiener had on Mahalanobis, one cannot restrict the search for an imaginary to empirical evidence alone. It is worthwhile to speculatively employ Wiener's cybernetic worldview to elucidate the technological imaginary that empowered the statistical machinery driving a fledgling Indian state. In this context, Mahalanobis makes a very pertinent remark, which, by the way, is the only quote I have, which really is the wellspring of this presentation in a way, where he says that statistics is not a branch of mathematics, but is a technology which is essentially concerned with the contingent world of reality, as distinguished from a world of abstraction. Now, what does he mean? Statistics individuates the technology that is exclusive to the state, even as it embodies an acknowledgement of the limits of state control. And by that I mean a limits of state control of the contingent reality of society, of the population. The cybernetic perspective allows one to recast critical readings of Mahalanobis' use of anthropometry, for example, as enabling casteism. That's a critique. That's one of the things that interested Mahalanobis, anthropometry, and people have argued that it enables casteism. We will see that later. Even as it speaks to the Indian political leadership's manifest desire for an alternative view of industrialization that considered both the value of the dignity of the individual human body as well as the task of turning a large population into productive labor force. So, in a way, only when we use cybernetic thinking to understand, make sense of Mahalanobis' statistical approaches, we we can make sense of how it could both uh, combine these purposes, which is turning a large population productive and also thinking about the dignity of the individual human body. Now, returning to Mahalanobis' remark, statistics is often introduced as a topic in the subject of mathematics as though the prime purpose of statistics was to come up with a domain that was isolated from the worldly affairs as Platonic solids, some kind of mathematics is supposed to be. Without getting into the critique of such an idea of mathematics, and there are such critiques internal to the field itself, Mahalanobis actually seems to propose what can only be an ethical ground to object to the idea of statistics as mathematics alone. Since statistics had to be defined by a purpose, as he says, it is never self contained in its existence, but is comprehended in relation to what the statistics is about, or rather who it is about. Statistics involves mathematics, but they are more suitably understood as mathematical techniques that constitute the living technology that is an efficient statistical machinery. For Mahalanobis, the idea of statistics being a technology could be precisely distinguished from the idea of statistics being a tool. Statistics is not a tool to be applied to collected data, but a technology that is conscious of the technical and social milieu that comprises not just the activity of manipulating, but also that of collecting the data in the first place and interacting with the subjects producing that data. Mahalanobis himself is a role model in his level of investment in the uh, uh, entire chain of the statistical technological milieu, as I call it, uh, borrowing from a concept from Simondon. For his initial anthropometric research, Mahalanobis designed a device called a profiloscope, which you can see on the screen, to accurately measure the facial features of his subjects, Indian citizens. The profiloscope, for all its problematic connotations, represents this commitment to be aware of the technical milieu in which a particular technology, in this case, uh, in this case, statistics functions. An ethical corollary, an ethical consciousness is a corollary of such an awareness of the scope and boundaries of the technical milieu within which this statistical technology operates. It is important to read this conception in the light of the work of Simondon and Bernard Stiegler, who recently passed away, contrasting with the expected image of statistics as mathematical abstractions that liberate themselves from their, we imagine them to be sometimes liberating themselves from the context of their application. As opposed to that, Mahalanobis would perhaps name as statistics the entire process which contains the profiloscope at its one end. So, according to Stiegler, the human beings themselves emerge in conditions of an originary technicity, where their own body parts are the first technological elements they're conscious of. Like, say, my hand is the first tool that I come to know. Now, this view is a legacy of Simondon and Andrei Leroy Goron, who see technological evolution as a part of human co-evolution. Echoing such an approach, Mahalanobis not only imagines statistics to be a technology, but includes it in a technical milieu which contains a device like a profiloscope. So, you know, that has the direct imprint, and this profiloscope has a direct imprint of the actual technical element that it is supposed to measure. And I call it a technical element, uh, intentionally, and that technical element is the human face. So, if we really think of an originary technicity where indeed our body parts are these technical tools, provide an original technicity to the human condition, an originary technicity, then we can say that the statistical machinery, quite opposed to being a abstract mathematical uh, technique, actually comprises this whole uh, machinery, this whole technology, which bears an imprint of the subject of statistics itself, which is the human body. So, to be sure, Mahalanobis faced criticism for the problematic nature of the purpose that could be termed to be contributing to an institutionalization of racial profiling. But this is a slight misreading of Mahalanobis, because instead of evading the question of race and caste, or in a way, unthinkingly affirming to prejudices about race and caste, Mahalanobis turns his focus into using statistics to show the complexity of the relationship between race, that is caste, and philosophic and physical profile. More precisely, the mutability of such relationships. Within this context, Mahalanobis set out to show that the nature of the variation between different castes in Bengal. It was shown that people of the same caste, but from different regions, could display significant variation between them, whereas people across castes, but narrowly confined to specific regions, bore similarities. And it is for these measurements that actually Mahalanobis came up with new mathematical techniques called the Mahalanobis distance, uh, which were meant to precisely capture these differences and similarities which were not discovered earlier. Now, it is not enough to say that the attributes of race and caste are constructed by social forces and hence they are discounted. No, Mahalanobis unravels the technicity of how caste happens as a process. Not only was race or caste socially constructed, but perhaps technologically invented, as it were, and the essential evolutionary character of all technology, in our case, a statistical technology, meant that uh, you know race and caste were also evolving. One only needs to contrast this view of statistics as technology to some conservative imagination of statistics as the final fix, the tool that invalidates progressive visions as being naive before the reality of hard numbers. We will not take up the task of refuting this viewpoint, but this is a prevalent popular understanding of statistics as being something that can be used to validate conservative positions. Uh, so such an imagination comes because statistical measurements are merely a path in these, where, as opposed to Mahalanobis' vision, in these things, statistical measurements are merely a path towards quantitative supremacy that finalizes and legitimates dominant and prejudiced perceptions about race or caste that are otherwise qualitative. But Mahalanobis would argue that in his conception of statistics, every conception and every definition, every everyday term is being questioned because of the sophistication of the statistical techniques themselves. So, uh, so there is no mismeasure of man, paying due homage to Stephen Jay Gould, because statistics is not a means to manipulate data to fit a preconceived theory, but instead statistics challenges even our most basic presumptions concealed often in the categorizations done by everyday words for race and caste. And the process of doing anthropometry rigorously could be so revealing that at one point Mahalanobis realizes that the dicey basis of the very identity that is caste, and he refuses to use the word caste itself and uses what he says is a neutral term called a group. No, it is not that. So that's what I'm saying, that it's not that one can arrive at a final statistical formula that provides a concrete basis to caste variation or caste for that matter, but rather we discover this variation is itself changing over time and space apart from depending on the specificities of the statistical method in applied. Now, coming to cybernetics, the the technological imaginary that this was the uh, kind of statistics uh, that Mahalanobis envisioned for the purposes of informing economic policies that would that would be implemented in the country. Now, the technological imaginary that sustained such a vision of rapid economic development was an equally efficient machinery for the constant collection and manipulation of statistical data. Staying true to the cybernetic imagination, where imagine an apparatus correcting itself through constant feedback, the statistical machinery would emulate such an ideal only if it is driven by human agents who know the statistics, who know that statistics has a purpose and it must constantly adapt itself to that purpose. In many ways, Mahalanobis lays the foundations of a technocratic state that is premised upon an oddly humanistic vision that wishes to operationalize self-reflexivity as a methodological compulsion, as it were. This is not meant to simply valorize Mahalanobis and absolve him of some problematic political implications of his anthropometry, but rather to show that he laid the basis of a technological imaginary that anticipated and resisted populist socio-technological imaginaries that were to define the zeitgeist much later. We are often confronted today with an imagination of data that celebrates the lack of predefined purpose. Instead of Mahalanobis saying statistics must have a purpose, we celebrate data for the sake of data itself. Nowadays, the collection of data is an end in itself and driven by a certain faith in the contingent discovery of a future purpose. On the contrary, Mahalanobis stresses that statistic must have a clearly defined purpose, and according to that sense, it is a better tool than economics, even because even economic methods are not dynamic enough to adapt to the anomalies and singularities presented by the data they operate upon. But statistics was indeed a different kind of method. At one place, Mahalanobis fears that if statistics loses its purpose, there is the fear of large amounts of redundant data being accumulated. Whereas the exponential increasing capacities of storage devices today turn the idea of redundant data being a burden on its head. Today, redundant data dumps are like the new oil that have a certain intrinsic value for the potential to be mined for unexpected purposes hitherto undiscovered. In fact, one may even set about asking how the cybernetic schema is supposed to be operationalized as a meaningful socio-technological imaginary. We must remember that Wiener developed his conception of cybernetics as almost a postscript to his work on statistics, his earlier work on statistics, especially the kind of statistical control and prediction allowed by his work on modeling Brownian motion. We can see that the notion of statistics is implicit to the very idea of cybernetics as a feedback-based correction of error. Certainly, it is not possible to convert every machine, device, or thought into its cybernetic version. I mean, that's it cannot be applied in a very simplistic way universally. However, cybernetics most fundamentally construed imagines the placement of mechanical, social, technological, or otherwise that respond constantly to the deviation between the output and the goal of the analysis. This formal feature of the cybernetic schema is turned into an ethical principle of sorts for statistical planning in independent India. That's my argument. Thanks a lot.